accidentally turned the film off. Anyway, got the block heater right there. And there's your quick disconnects for the plow. It comes off pretty easy. I've had it off and on a couple times. These are the caster adjustments, so you can run your casters up and down. You got I got a spare actuator, brand new. They must have ordered 2 of them when they got the plow, so they have a spare. So that one's brand new also. And anyway, I'll clean this up a little bit. I'll get it power washed, and it's been sitting for a little while. It's got a lot of tree crap on it, but I'll wash it up for you. Anyway, the blade's in great shape. Doesn't look like it's been used hardly any. It's pretty darn thick, so it'll take a while to wear that down, I believe. And I've got another brand new blade that's in the back of the truck. The casters are both in good shape. And anyway, yeah, there's just a couple pins to take this thing out. You're going to pull that right there. Take the pin out on both sides. You know, you set it down. I used to use a couple blocks. And then once you lower it down, you can disconnect the chain. And then it just sits on the casters and some blocks. That's all it is. So it's not too bad to hook up and disconnect. One person can do it. And anyway, the only problem with having this up, if you got the snowplow up, you can't open the hood all the way. So this is normally the hood latch. I was almost going to put a chain on here and run it over to here so that you can just hook it on and chain the hood instead of having this rod, because this rod doesn't hook very well on there. It's got that's the original version they had. So I would suggest maybe changing that later on. But yeah, you got to have the snow plow down to get the hood all the way up. And anyway, these little windows in here, those are actually infrared. So at nighttime, if you get a night vision scope, you can see those. There's a marker up here, there's a marker down there. And anyway, oh, this is the air tank, air filter for the engine. So it's got an indicator in the cockpit, and on the console here. I'll open that up in a minute and show you. If it turns yellow, you want to take that filter out and clean it. There's your 80-gallon fuel tank, and that's your fill cap right there next to the driver's door. And anyhow, there's your intake for your engine. And these are all the tags. These are maintenance work orders. So any modifications that were done by the military, it's got the date. You'd have to look up what the mod number was and what was incorporated. But anyway, that's what those are. And anyway, it looks like it's got good airlines in there. And, you know, what's neat about the wiring on these things is every wire has a metal tag that's engraved or stamped. So when you go online and you want to look up something on how to troubleshoot, you can go right there to the maintenance manuals. You can find everything you want about these trucks. That's what's great about it. And it'll tell you the troubleshooting procedure. It'll tell you what wire to go to, what connector to go to. And so it makes it real easy if something's not working right, you can troubleshoot with it. So anyway, here's your push button for your washer. And this little button here is for your ether button. There's an ether tank in there about the size of a propane tank. And they're about $65-70 at O'Reilly's. And you screw that into, I'll show you later, that you screw that into the engine compartment there. And it's got an ether start to it. This is the light switch. Basically, this lever is the lock button. You got to hold this lock to push over to the turn the headlights on. the reason they had that is so that somebody, if they were in a convoy at night, somebody didn't accidentally turn their headlights on and give away the convoy. So the first notch is infrared, and the second notch is your your regular headlights. Now you do have the old-fashioned forward push button for your brights right here. You step on that. And then this is that air indicator. If it turns yellow, that means your air filter's sucking too much pressure, and you need to, it's like a vacuum gauge, so you need to change that. Let me step up there in the truck. You got your blower here, which this is your battery switch and your key. And you're going to turn your battery on. There's the blower. That's low. That's high. That's pretty good heat. Last time I was in it, it was like got toasty within 20 minutes or so in here, so it was pretty good. This is emergency shut-off. The military had the emergency shut-off for like if thing was on fire or something, or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, you pull that lever. What it does, it pulls a on-off, shut-off with a cable on top of the fuel control. If you ever pull that out accidentally, you won't be able to restart it. You have to go underneath the hood and push that lever forward, because it just sits there on that cable, and when it pulls back, it only goes one way. You can't return it with the handle. You got to go back there and manually return it, the lever back to normal, and then it'll start back up. These are your windshield wipers. They're pneumatic. You got one on the left over here. You got one on the right. And there's your wiper motors, and they're right up there. They're all pneumatic also. So you've got hoses for them there, and the same thing over there. The return signal is right here, and the only thing about it, it doesn't manually return. So if you're going down the road, you have a tendency to leave your blinker on and you feel like an idiot. So anyway, but you do that, and then you can put your flashers on. I believe you pull this lever out. Let me figure that one out again. I think you lock that out, and then you pull that up, and it turns all your flashers on. Otherwise, it's single. So, and then you got a parking brake on. If your air's low, you got a spring ride override in case your brakes go out. Engine hot light. Got an axle lock-in, which the axle lock-in is your front axle. Your rear drive shafts are in play all the time. So you always got rear wheel drive on both the tandems. The front wheel drive is this lever right here. And you can shift it on the fly. So that just shifts it. When you go to end, you've got all six wheels locked in, all three axles. So anyway, if you're going down the highway, you probably don't need it. You can go to out. Probably give you a little bit better gas mileage. So let's see. Okay, you got an ABS light. The rear axle has anti-lock. So if you see the ABS light staying on, there's something wrong with the rear axle, for the braking system. But the front tandem axle doesn't have it. It's just got regular braking, but the rear one has ABS, so it keeps you from skidding around. Of course, this is your RPM, your miles per hour. That's the mileage. You got your engine temperature. This is your primary air pressure and your secondary air pressure. Now, you shouldn't drive the truck until you get up above 80 psi. So when you start the truck, you gotta let it run for a few minutes. Make sure your pressure's up above 80, then your brakes will release. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. This is your excuse me, this is your water pressure here, or water temperature, oil temperature, and then your fuel gauge. And over here you got your voltage gauge. Sorry, I got the reflection from my coat in there. I just looked down and seen the camera. Here's your defog. So if you pull that out, it sends all the air up to these vents up on top and defrost your windshield. Heater, you pull that out all the way. That closes off the valve. Lets you have heat in here. You don't have air conditioning, but you can always open the front windows, and you can make this whole thing a convertible if you want. And you can have as much fresh air as you want. If you want to close off the fresh air, you can, but I usually leave about half open. Over here, it's got all the weight dimensions, specifications. It's got the measurements on it. You'll see that it what is the length on that? It's they got it in inches. Anyway, looks like it's 326.5 inches long without the plow. So anyway, it's 95.62 inches wide, the truck is, and it's almost 10 foot tall, I can tell you that. Anyway, it's got the weight, payload capacity, all that good stuff. Down here it's got the servicing for all the, how much the capacity of the fuel tank is, the cooling system, crankcase, transmission, normal operating temperatures, what mil spec you want to use on the oil. I usually use a 90 weight SA oil, just like you'd use in a farm tractor or diesel truck, and it uses the same in the engine block as well as the transmission and your differentials. So you're using 90 weight in all that. There's no, the military simplified all that, so you don't have to have like transmission fluid or anything like that. Now you do the hydraulic fluid, you do have to have the regular hydraulic fluid in there. So anyhow, there's a fire extinguisher right here, and looks like it might be a little bit low. Haven't never used it, but anyway, it's there. It was last inspected 2017. Looks like. Anyway, the emergency spring brake control, you're going to push that in to override your brake system. If your air goes out, of course you lose your brakes. Your brakes will lock up. So you hit the spring brake to release them, and it might get you down the road to at least get you off the highway or get you to the next exit. Don't imagine it'll last real long, because if you're losing brake pressure, you're probably got more problems than that. So we got a couple levers here. This lever actually doesn't do anything right now. It's been it's disabled, but this is your PTO, and the way to engage your PTO is you have to have your transmission in gear. And these are the two levers for the snowplow. So, and before I start this up and gets noisy and everything, here's your parking brake. You're always going to have that, and this is your transmission high-low. What do you call it? Manual crankcase. Anyway, for high gear, you're going to be up with the lever or down with the lever, and then for low, you're going to pull up on it. I can't imagine being in low gear unless you were way down in a ditch in the mud and the sand somewhere, but anyway, I don't see that being. I've always driven them in high gear. They've got plenty of torque and low end on them. This actually is a secondary on-off switch for the lighting system. So when you turn this on, you can go up here. You'll see you see these glow a little green inside. It's easier to see at night, but there's a green light inside there. It turns amber when the lights are on. So that means this lights are the floodlights are on, and you hit that and turn them back off. And then these are the lights for the spotlights, and you got all 6 spotlights and the beacons up top. So those, you want to make sure you turn that stuff off. You run your batteries down, that's no good. So anyway, this lever down here, you're going to turn it like that. When you do, you'll see the lights go out, and you won't be running your battery down. Okay, I'm going to give this a crank. Let's see, you got to first turn your battery switch on up here. This is your main battery switch for everything. And okay. Anyway, this lever here is sort of like your cruise control. When you're warming it up, you can just pull that out. And then, you know, when you're usually normal idle's about 600. I let them warm up a little bit, and once that feels like it's warmed up, I'll push it back in. It'll idle about right at 600 RPM. So anyway, I think high end on these is about 23. 100 RPM, so yeah, you just want to not over rev the engine too much. Okay, now to operate that snowplow out there, I'm going to put this in gear. I'm going to put my foot on the brake, put it in gear, and then I bring the PTO, I lock that PTO in. Once it's locked in, now I got hydraulics to the plow. So I'm gonna, that lowers and raises the plow. And let's see, wait a minute. Is the gauge right? Sometimes you gotta roll forward just to get that PTO in. Let me move forward here. Take the emergency brake off. It won't go into gear while it's in neutral. So you go to gear. Now I think it fell in. I gotta relearn this damn thing. Wait. Let me pause this for just a second. Thank you.